Welcome back to Learn JavaScript on Codecademy. We're in the Iterator section. This is the reduce method. Another widely used iteration method is .reduce. The .reduce method returns a single value after iterating through the elements of an array, thereby reducing the array. Take a look at the example below. We have const numbers is assigned this array of numbers. Const summed nums is assigned numbers.reduce, which takes an accumulator and current value, and then returns accumulator plus current value. When we log summed nums, we output 17, which tells us this is adding all these numbers together. And this is how it's doing it. Here are the values of accumulator and current value as we iterate through the numbers array. First iteration, accumulator is 1, current value is 2. Those are our first two values. Our return value is 3 since it added those in our return statement. The second iteration, accumulator becomes 3, and current value is the next item in our array. It adds them, returns 7. Accumulator becomes 7 in the third iteration. Current value then is the last element in our array, 10, and then it adds them, returns 17. Now let's go over the use of .reduce from the example above. Numbers is an array that contains numbers. Summed nums is a variable that stores the return value of invoking .reduce on numbers. Numbers.reduce calls the reduce method on the numbers array and takes in a callback function as argument. The callback function has two parameters, accumulator and current value. The value of accumulator starts off as the value of the first element in the array, and the current value starts as the second element. To see the value of accumulator and current value change, review the chart above. As .reduce iterates through the array, the return value of the callback function becomes the accumulator value for the next iteration. Current value takes on the value of the current element in the looping process. The .reduce method can also take an optional second parameter to set an initial value for accumulator. Remember, the first argument is the callback function. For instance, we have our same example. Const numbers is this array of numbers. We have const summed nums, takes in numbers.reduce, with the accumulator and current value being added and returned. But here it takes this second argument of 100, which will set our initial value for accumulator. Here's an updated chart that accounts for the second argument of 100. It just shows us that on the first iteration, the accumulator begins as 100. It runs through the loop the same way after that and ends with 117. Let's practice calling .reduce and using console log to check the values as .reduce iterates through the array. In main.js, there is an array of numbers, new numbers. To start, declare a new variable named newSum using the const keyword. Assign to newSum the value of calling .reduce on new numbers. You don't need to provide any arguments to .reduce yet. You'll also see a type error, undefined is not a function, but we'll fix that after we add our callback function in the next step. Let's do that now. Run it. We do pass here. Let's see that error. And it is here, undefined is not a function. Let's see number 2 now. Provide .reduce with an argument of a callback function. The callback function has two parameters. The first parameter is accumulator and the second parameter is current value. Use either a function expression or an arrow function. Let's do it here. Let's run this. We did pass. Continue on. Number 3 says, to check the value being used as we iterate through the array, add 3 statements to the function body of the callback. Let's add these into our body and a return statement that adds accumulator to current value. Let's run that. We did pass. 4. Log the value of newSum to the console to see the return value of calling .reduce on new numbers. Let's do that down here. Run it. It does pass, and let's see what it output. So it does show you, it starts with accumulator is 1, current value is 3, adds them 4, and then we set current value to 5, it adds them, and then our accumulator is 9, and then we do the last value 7. And when we log newSum, we do get them all added up and it's 16. 5 says, while we have this code set up, let's also check what happens if you add a second argument to .reduce. The second argument acts as an initial value for the accumulator. Add a second argument of 10 to .reduce. So we can do that here. Let's run it. And we do get 26. We do pass, and it did work as expected. So we're learning the .reduce method here. We learned that it takes an accumulator and a current value. We can set the initial accumulator, or it's automatically going to grab the first element in our array. The reduce method does return a single value after iterating through the elements of the array, thereby reducing the array. As long as you're understanding that, you guys are getting this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one.